Hello everybody, this is a video about solving proportions. I will be your magical host, Mr. Shirley. Now I would like you to make a note as we're going through this slideshow here, and just keep that for future reference, for future homework and quizzes and whatnot. So on we go. Make sure you put a date and a title on it. I hope that should be obvious at the moment. A page number I will leave up to you, because depending on whether or not you are having a table of contents, whether your math book is still at the school, it's a little bit up to you whether you do that page number thing. But definitely a date and a title. Our learning goal for this one is to consider and apply some methods for solving proportions. Now, what's a proportion, you ask? I'm glad you did, because I'm happy to tell you. So when two ratios are equal, is known as a proportion. Okay, now we did something very similar to this in the last unit with fractions. Okay, so some of these questions will look very familiar because it's essentially the same thing, so I would like you to treat it that way. Okay, so whatever you are doing to one number within that ratio, you are doing the same thing to the other one. So for example, we would do 4 times 2 to get 8, and therefore you would have to do 3 times 2 to get the other number, which should be 6, and it would be if I had my selector tool to pull the box out of the way, but trust me, the answer is 6. I'll get there. There, yes, 6. Oh, that is the wrong thing. Okay, there we go. So for B, 15 divided by 3 would get you 5, so you would do 90 divided by 3 to get 30. So then your proportion there is, your second part in the ratio, second term in the ratio will be 30. I'd like you to try C on your own, okay, just to give you a bit of practice. So pause the video and try that out. Okay, I'll assume you did that. So 35 divided by 5, it's always so awkward whenever I ask you guys to do that, but I hope you do it sometimes. I feel weird about it, but you need the practice. So 35 divided by 7 will get you 5, so you do 28 divided by 7 gets you 4. Now, D is slightly trickier because 12, there's not a whole number you can multiply or divide 12 by to get 20. So you've got a few options, okay? And I'll recommend one specifically, but you can decide what works best for you. So my recommendation is to reduce 9 over 12 to lowest terms first. Okay, so if you reduce that to 3 over 4, because you divide top and bottom by 3. Now, 3 over 4 is a lot easier to go to 20. Okay, so you would do 4 times 5 to get to 20, which means you would do 3 times 5 to get to this number on the top. Sorry for all the arrows, but you all know I like arrows, so live with it. And 3 times 5 gets you 15. Okay, now the other way you could do this, so that's one way, reduce your fraction or your ratio to lowest terms, and then go from the lowest terms to the other fraction. Okay, and I'll try this a little bit as we go. So it's like an intermediate step. The other way is you could do 20 divided by 12. Okay, and I'll write this up there. So come on, Smartboard software. So that's method 1 is arrows. Method 2, you would do 20 divided by 12. And your answer when you do that is basically going to be 1.66666, so like a 1.6 with the bar notation over it there. And then that's what you would multiply 12 by to get 20, or you would multiply 9 by that to get 15. So if you did 9 times 1.66666, you would get a decimal that is essentially equal to 15. Okay, you would probably get 14.99999, but you will get close enough to 15 that you would kind of figure that out and round it. So that's the second method for these trickier ones. Okay, hopefully I haven't completely confused you there. You'll get a little bit of chance to practice that with the homework related to this, and then ask me any questions during one of our meetings. Okay. So next are some problems where we might actually use this. Okay, so when you're faced with a problem like this, let me read it first and then we'll go through it. So the ratio of Tim's height to Bob's height is 4 to 5. Okay, if Tim is 160 centimeters tall, how tall is Bob? Okay, so the first thing you want to do is set up a proportion. Okay, so the way that the ratios are given up here is basically Tim to Bob. Okay, so Tim's height to Bob's height. Okay, and we're given that it's 4 to 5, and so we want to set up a proportion with the thing we know in there, and then you can just have a blank. You could put an X. You can decide how you'd like to do that. I'm just going to use a blank for these videos because then I can write stuff in there as we go. But whatever you want to set up that proportion, and then just like we did on the last slide, you're just trying to figure out what goes in there. Okay, so step 2 is solve the proportion. It's funny that often step 1 is the one that trips up most of the students. Solving the proportion is fairly easy. But anyway, so we've got 4 to 5 equals 160. Ooh, that's fancy, Mr. Shirley. 2 boxes. Okay, so 4 times 40 will get to 160. So you would want to do 5 times 40 to get your other number. So 5 times 40 is 200. And so that's Bob's height. So Bob's a pretty tall guy. So therefore Bob is 200 centimeters tall. I really would like you to put in, at least when there's space, put in a bit of a closing sentence on these questions, just putting the units back in there so that you're getting something useful for it. All right, last slide, on we go. So a particular type of liquid cleaner requires that you mix it with water in a 5-to-1 ratio of water to cleaner. If you have 150 milliliters of cleaner, how much water do you need? And yes, this is a very real world problem because this is a regular thing you do with certain types of cleaners if you're cleaning floors or having to mix bleach with things for just cleansing things. It's a very common thing to have to do. Okay, so again, set up your proportion, water to cleaner. We know we have a 5-to-1 ratio, and I've arranged this one slightly differently than the last example. Doesn't really matter how you do it, as long as you know they're equal. So 5-to-1 ratio of water to cleaner. Now we know the cleaner is 150 milliliters, so we're trying to figure out what the other number is. Okay, so you would multiply 1 times 150 to get to 150. Hopefully I didn't blow anyone's mind with that one. And so you do the same thing on the other side. So 5 times 150 to get 750. Okay, so just to go back and look at the question to make sure you've done what you needed to do. So therefore you would need 750 milliliters of water. So just make sure you think it through, make sure it kind of makes sense given the numbers that you have to end up with the result that you did. So try out that, try out the homework, and please let me know if you have any questions during our meetings or by email. Thank you very much for watching and listening, and have a great day.